Happy anniversary to Pokemon. Congrats on reaching 30 years of defining so many children's childhoods, myself included. To celebrate this occasion, I wanted to give a proper spotlight to all the Pokemon that you can catch in Funko Pop form right now, as we take a bit of a stroll on 30 years of Pokemon and the impact it has had on my life through different mediums. 1996, the year just before I was born, in Japan on this day released the first games to the market for what would spawn the franchise Pocket Monsters Red and Pocket Monsters Green. Not like how when it came to America 2 years later in Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue, just color preferences to be different, but it would spawn 151 recognizable creatures to the marketplace, including the series mascot Pikachu. Side note, RIP to this one. It fell one day and I did my best to fix it. Back to the point of the timeline, I was a young baby with no real sense of knowledge or understanding. It wasn't until 2004 I had just turned 6 years old and my dad, who knew I loved movies and TV shows, got me Pokemon VHS tapes from the anime. At the time I had no real clue what the heck this was, but popping it in, I was immediately hooked into it. Seeing Ash Ketchum and his Pokemon fighting different battles, catching new friends, and all in the quest to become the Pokemon Master. I begged to continue watching his adventures, from more tapes throughout the original run to the first round of movies. My obsession was slowly growing as the time went on, but when it came to the games, I wasn't there yet. My parents didn't truly know what would be my hobby of choice. What would I gravitate towards to grow my occupying mind and time? Later, by 2005, I would be gifted my first gaming device, the Game Boy Advance. At the time, it wasn't an immediate start, but it was the true start to where my Pokemon adventure would truly begin for myself. I eventually started with Pokemon Fire Red, a remake of the original Red version, choosing Squirtle as my starter Pokemon. Sadly, a very young me had no real idea how to get past certain points. I never got past the third gym during my original run in Kanto. I switched over to the Hoenn region in Pokemon Emerald to try a new region, this time picking out Mudkip. But once more, I still wasn't able to get past that third gym. Like I was cursed by this point. I wouldn't give up, but I wouldn't see progress as well. Still using the anime as my crutch to see what was next in the story, as at the time I would only be able to see random episodes of the Advanced Generation series of Pokemon on TV at the time. Then came the year of 2007. The previous birthday of getting a Nintendo DS came the release of Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl, the start of the fourth generation. It wasn't until I was in the streets of Manhattan where I discovered the anime adaptation was set to start up in June, in which by that time I was all ready to go for my playthrough in the Sinnoh region, picking out Piplup. This game, as well as the successor a couple years later in Platinum, would be my most investment in a title yet. The amount of hours I spent training my team, going through the large landscape of the region, every car ride, every sit-down session was in my determination to beat the game and be declared champion. It was also the first time I truly got to battle with my friends, my work being showcased on a larger scale. Even getting to experience a new unseen world for myself in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, in which both versions were bought for me and my sister, though it really was for me. Generation 4 would hold a soft spot for me, in terms of actually being invested in titles, as well as with my changing life at the time. A few months after Platinum's release, my parents would separate to divorce. The time period, while not felt at the time, it really did affect me, and in a way caused me to be really more connected to Pokemon more than ever. It was the most constant IP out there that kept me preoccupied with my time, from a gameplay and from an anime perspective. I still remember watching Pokemon DP Sinnoh League Victors over the weekend when it was my dad's turn, with a new episode being tuned in, eating a sausage and egg sandwich to boot. It took me away from the reality of how things were. It was something I needed for my mind to keep occupied, to keep busy, to get my mind on things. It eventually did make me want to go back to Kanto and to Hoenn to try again once more, this time being able to conquer and make my way through to becoming a true Pokemon Master. That was the deepest I was with anything ever at that time period, and I thank Game Freak for making that happen for me. In 2011, it was time to hit a reset point. Time to redefine the balance. This time taking my home city of New York City as inspiration for the new Unova region in Pokemon Black and Pokemon White. The anime started the month before release, and similarly, I was ready to get distracted with something totally new. School and my personal life were not in a good state, so being invested in a virtual world similar to my home? Yes, please. By the time Pokemon Black was in my hand, choosing Oshawott as my partner on this adventure, I was ready to feel that same investment as before. Though it wasn't the same. I still beat it and I still felt that same thrill at the start, but when I got to the league, it felt a little distant from the feeling I had before. Same with the anime. The hard reboot was probably great for all the new fans out there, but for me, it didn't get its hooks into me. But as I said before, Generation 5 still blew the franchise up even further to warrant more of an effort for a worldwide Unity front for the next generation, this time on Nintendo 3DS for Pokemon X and Pokemon Y, to start up Generation 6. This had a bit of a new feel to me. By this point, I had reclaimed a certain part of my identity and was ready to double down on my love of the series again. Being in a friend group at the time that shared my same passion for video games and being ready to have constant battles to train and go further beyond in my journey. Picking Froakie to venture into this new region of Kalos, it was the first and only time truly discovering the metagame within, in which having to carefully breed and raise certain Pokemon and all the specific mechanics that I didn't really get too far into. Even getting the remake of Ruby and Sapphire only made me begin to feel a different type of sourness towards the franchise. I wasn't feeling that energy anymore. The anime I had begun tuning out of my rotation, and the games would just take so much more longer for me to accomplish. Even to this day, I still never finished Pokemon Omega Ruby. Regardless, it was still a very connectful generation for me to find myself in and to be with my peers in my own mindset. After graduating high school in 2016, I had my own stable income source and I was ready to fully be into Generation 7, which arguably was my last real generation with the franchise, as Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon released that fall to a new tropical region in Alola, with a cute little Popplio to boot. I went in so deep that I actually bought the Z ring from the game, even getting the Z crystal packs to have a full roster at the time to synergize the experience. It was slow going, but I did stream through the game to beat it. It was something else, but still not to the levels I was hoping to be. It was then I kind of realized this wasn't for me anymore, that the franchise is largely moving on to newer kids and I'm not on their mindset anymore. I'm in a they'll get it or they won't type of category. In 2019, just a couple years after the launch of the Nintendo Switch, came the start of Generation 8, moving into a whole new region of Galar. I admit I picked up the game based on lineage, but not out of sheer want. Starting it up with Sobble, I went pretty slow due to how different this iteration felt compared to the other ones I played before. I did purposely put it down as I didn't feel the magic in me anymore. I just let it sit in my collection wall for the time being, till the anime came back for one final reprisal on my heart, seeing Ash go through the World Coronation series, revisiting old regions and meeting up with old friends and fighting through Galar in a different way. It actually motivated me to get back into the game, at least one more time to finish it off properly. It was still a grind, but I did eventually conquer it, which at this time period was my final Pokemon League. It was a very somber way to end off my true connection with the series for now, so to speak, leaving no stone unturned when I run in these different regions. Generation 9 for the time being remains untouched, as Ash left the anime to new unseen adventures. Perhaps my time with the mainline series is over for the time being, and that's fine as my journey in Pokemon exists elsewhere. Funko getting the Pokemon license only means easy money printer. Even the first 151 alone would be enough to last a whole decade in their release cycles. But we had 8 years of them and we just scratched the surface on them in pop form. While each region has some representations and various amounts of unique Pokemon, only over 70 has been released thus far. Me personally only having 69 of them to my own collection. There are over 1,000 of them out there right now, with still more coming on the way. But for now, my ace level self is content with the new generation rising up to feel the same way that I used to feel for the franchise. I do hope for the day that someday I'll get to show my own kids the power of the Pokemon. I do hope for the day that I do get to show my kids the power of Pokemon. But until then, I'll keep catching them one Funko Pop at a time. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know down below, what do you have in your Pokemon Funko Pop collection? Happy Pokemon 30th anniversary. And until next time, everyone, this has been Joe here from the Collection Compass. Thank you so much for watching. Until then, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.